Hello everybody, welcome back to the Shark Shack YouTube variety channel. And at the time of making this video, Modern Warfare 3 2023 releases in a couple of days. Now recently the campaign was made available for those who pre-ordered the game. Now I'm not going to spoil the game for any of you who really even care, but the reaction to the content has been less than stellar. People have criticized it, calling it lazy due to the devs reusing assets and maps, as well as it only being about 4 hours long. I mean, Modern Warfare 3 as a whole has been getting a lot of backlash because a lot of players feel like the game is just being pumped out for a quick buck, myself included. I mean, it's been described as a $70 DLC by many. But why is that? And how exactly did we get here? Now I'm going to put a warning here because this video may jump around a bit, because I have a lot of thoughts and feelings when it comes to the topic. So I'm going to try my best to make everything make sense and flow together. But I apologize if I get a little off the rails here. So let's get into it. What makes a game good? Now, admittedly, this is a very silly question because what makes a game good is very subjective. Everybody has a game that they love, and whether or not critics agree doesn't hold a whole lot of weight. For the purpose of this video, I'm going to answer this question with my own experience on what makes a game stand out to me and why I love specific games. Now I'm going to first up talk about single player. For me, when I see a game that I don't recognize and I haven't seen a whole lot of gameplay for, setting is the most influencing thing for me if I even want to buy the game or even try it. I want to give you examples. So like, for me, I'm not a big sci-fi or space kind of guy, so a game like Starfield doesn't really appeal to me all that much. That doesn't mean it's necessarily a bad game, but the setting just doesn't draw me in, so it's going to be a harder sell. In contrast to like a Wild West game, where that is a setting I am interested in, so a game like Red Dead is going to pique my interest. I know it sounds silly, but the setting of a game is my first impression on whether it's going to interest me or not. Moving on, gameplay and story are objectively the most important things of a video game. That's what makes them a video game. So if the story is captivating and the gameplay is fun, obviously you have a pretty solid game on your hands. But I feel like, and I'd argue, the most important aspect of a game that influences whether it's your favorite or whether you look fondly on it is when in your life you played it. I know it's insignificant and it's not a huge thing people really think about, but I think it really does stick out, and it translates to multiplayer games as well. For example, take the recent memes that have come from Fortnite returning to the OG map. A lot of people say, oh, this reminds me of when I was a kid, or this reminds me of when I'd get on with my friends. It's not always the content of the game that sticks with you, it's the feeling you have when you play with your friends, or you're playing it on Christmas morning, or what have you. I love Red Dead Redemption 2. It's one of the best story games I've ever played, but when I'm thinking of my favorite games, it doesn't really come to the top of my head. To hammer this home a little further, I'm going to discuss why I love Battlefield 4. Now, a lot of people may not feel the same way I do about this game, and that's okay. But for me, Battlefield 4 was everything. I played it with my friends, and I made a lot of online friends and memories with it. We do things like hop in a tank and see how long we could live, or hold the power position for as long as possible. These memories are why this game holds such a special place in my heart. Another example is when lockdown happened, and my friends and I would play Modern Warfare 2019 pretty much all night on Search and Destroy. But when I play the same game mode now, I just don't get as much enjoyment from it. That's when I realized it wasn't necessarily the gameplay I missed or enjoyed as much as it was the experience of playing with my friends. Nostalgia blinds us and makes us look to the past more fondly than what it really was. So is Black Ops 2 really that much better than Vanguard? I mean, the answer is still up to you. But honestly, I don't know if these older games would have stood out to me if they came out today. Now, that's not to say that games are perfect now. There is still a lot wrong with the games that released today and the way that they are released. The biggest issue for me is the release now, fix later model. Now, the example I just gave, Battlefield 4, a game I loved, released in a terrible state. Bugs were everywhere, a lot of fans were disappointed, and rightly so. Star Wars Jedi Survivor had a lot of frame rate issues from what I remember, and a lot of people were complaining about that. Arkham Knight was unplayable on PC. A lot of these examples are devs or publishers, more often publishers, pushing out a game that is not ready, hoping for people to buy it so they can just fix it later. I think another huge issue is when games release with little content that devs say they will add later. If you're a Call of Duty fan, you know this very well, and it's had this issue for a long time. And I'd argue the newest Spider-Man kind of suffers from this too. It's like you're not buying a house, you're just buying the property, and then the realtor says, oh, we'll build the house later. Now, the last point I'll touch on is microtransactions, and while it is a problem, I don't think it's that big of a problem, and I think it's actually moving in a sort of positive direction. Now, charging $20+ for a skin in a $70 game is ridiculous, and you will never be able to convince me otherwise. But at least you're playing it and, I guess, using it in the next game. Now, that example comes from Call of Duty, but I don't know. That's the example I have right now. And quite a few other games are including free DLC with updates and paid cosmetics instead. It's a good move, but I think it still has problems. So what am I really saying here? I mean, older games sure aren't as perfect as we remember, and maybe we just have nostalgia for them, but newer games definitely have a lot more issues than older games did. At the same time, newer games are objectively bigger and bolder, and we've come a long way since Pong. And that's not to even mention the endless amount of indie games that are out there. I guess this video more focuses on AAA titles. And I know some people will mention that we can always play older games if the new ones suck. And that's true, unless it's, I guess, a multiplayer game and the developer shut down the servers. But other than that and single-player games, I mean, yeah, they're always there. But a large majority of us, and I think it's just part of being human, is wanting that newest thing or the bigger and better thing. Maybe you just want to play with your friends, so you buy the newest, whatever, Call of Duty or 2K, even though you don't really care for it, but you want to play with your friends, and I think a lot of us can relate to that. So are games getting worse? Are we just bored? Ultimately, that answer is different for everybody. For me, I think there are certain aspects of newer games that are just not acceptable, and it makes me angry. But are they worse? I don't know. I can't give a solid answer. I want to lean no. But let me know what you guys think. What is your opinion on the topic? Do you think games are getting better and better? Are they getting worse in some ways? Let me know. I want to end off this video by saying thank you so much for 50 subscribers. It's a lot more than I ever thought I'd even receive, and I appreciate all your guys' love and support. Shark Shack out!